We're here
Back again.
for a new episode.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Anyway, so today, what we're doing is we're talking about brainwashing in relationships.
Oh, that's a good topic. It looks like a spider bit me.
It does. What happened?
I don't know. But okay, go ahead.
So we want to give some advice to people for how to recognize brainwashing and avoid it as well, because I think that's useful information. Before we do that, we want to give some patrons shout outs. So Autumn Dupree, shout out to you. Amanda, shout out to you. Sasha, shout out to you. Valerie, shout out to you.
Okay.
And Lucy H, shout out to Lucy H.
Love you guys.
Thank you guys
so
for
much.
being here. We appreciate y'all.
We really do.
So let's get right into it. Now, we just want to say, for the record, we are not professionals on relationship abuse or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been through our own shit where we can recognize it and understand it. And I've looked up an article and I found this really insightful article. And what I want to do is go through the article and just kind of talk.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I like that. Go ahead.
Okay. So the article is called How to Recognize and Avoid Brainwashing. The author is Natalie Feinblatt. She is a PsyD, which means she's a doctor of psychology. And this article has been fact-checked. So
Great.
This is a credible source. It was last updated November 9th, so it's a fairly new article as well.
Okay.
So let's read through it. The term brainwashing was first used in the 1950s by American journalist Edward Hunter, reporting on the treatment of American soldiers in Chinese prison camps during the Korean War. Brainwashing techniques have been documented as far back as Egyptian Book of the Dead and used by abusive spouses and parents, self-proclaimed psychics, cult leaders, secret societies, revolutionaries, and dictators to bring others under their thumbs and manipulate them seemingly willingly. These techniques don't involve fantastic weapons or exotic powers, but they do involve an understanding of the human psyche and a desire to exploit it. By understanding these techniques better, you can learn how to protect yourself and others from them. So, what do you, in layman's terms, see as brainwashing? How do you define it?
I would define it as somebody who is trying to convince you of something else. Almost like they want to change your mind.
Change your beliefs.
Yes. Whatever it is that you feel one way of, they want to make sure it's not that way. It's going to be their way.
And this is a tactic used in abusive relationships with abusive people who want control over another person. That's why cult leaders use it, because they can brainwash somebody into believing what they're telling them to believe. And the person who's being brainwashed, the victim, almost willingly believes these things. So they don't believe that they're being brainwashed because they think that they're using their own autonomy to think these things. And this is the danger.
So to you, they don't really say it.
It's not somebody.
They almost trick you to believe what it is, and then it's like your own.
It's mind fucking, basically.
Wow.
So like an abuser in a relationship or a cult leader will throw out all these fucking crazy ass terms that sound really good on the surface, right? When realistically underneath, if you dig deep into these words and phrases that are used, it's manipulation and a lot of the times isolation, which we'll get into with this article. But like what'll happen is they'll throw out all of these buzzwords and stuff like that sound good and feel good. And the person who's on the receiving end of it is like, yeah, that sounds really good. Okay, this is for my highest good. This is for my greater good.
Right.
And then that person begins to believe that whatever they are doing or feeling is for their highest, most loving good.
Mm-hmm.
And they also believe that they are doing it willingly. That's the point.
Oh.
The point of this is why you see so many people on the internet get like scammed by all of these like spiritual gurus and like whatever, because they're essentially, if you're really good at it, they're being brainwashed. So like a famous person who's brainwashed people before, Charles Manson.
Yeah.
He brainwashed people to I'm not entirely sure what but I'm pretty sure he brainwashed them to either kill themselves or kill others or something like that.
I think it's to kill others.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But he was like this cult leader who, you know, and a lot of the times they have charm about them. They have these charming qualities that are very appealing to the outside world. Like Teal Swan is another one who, if you look her up, Teal Swan, she's another one of those like cult leaders. When she speaks, it's very like, you listen to her.
She's captivating.
Yes, it's very captivating, the things that she says. But once she gets you in her grips, it's like brainwashing you to do certain things or just be a part of her cult or spend money on her shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah. So number 1 is the first tip in this article is understand that those who attempt to brainwash others tend to prey upon the weak and vulnerable. So weak and vulnerable, I mean, that's a subjective term, right? That can mean anything, but that's somebody who's going through a lot of shit. So you, last year, when you were in your vulnerable place, you would have been easy to manipulate.
Right.
Because you're vulnerable. Somebody who's got a lot of trauma. Somebody who is very gullible, can seemingly be weak or vulnerable, right? Yeah. Somebody who's dealing with something in their life like an illness or depression even. That's why you see a lot of these life coaches preying on people who have depression or, oh, they're recently divorced or this and that, because they're in a vulnerable place.
Right.
And so when you're in that vulnerable place, you're looking for any way out of that vulnerable place, and then here comes this fucking cult leader or here comes this fucking guru to give you all the answers to get you out of it, when really they're just brainwashing you.
Right.
So it's the scariness about it. And I mean, again, this happens in relationships as well. Here comes the narcissist who sees you in this vulnerable place, like, oh, this person's going to be easy to target and manipulate. So it says, not everyone is a target for mind control, but certain people are more susceptible to forms of it at different times. A skillful manipulator knows what to look for and targets people who are going through a difficult period in their life or a change that may or may not be of their own making. Possible candidates are people who have lost their jobs, fear for their future, recently divorced people, suffering from lingering illness, people who have lost loved ones, particularly if they were very close to those people, young people away from home, people who are regarded as socially awkward by the mainstream peers. So this list is not exhaustive. There's a whole slew of targets for victims, like, you know what I mean? Like, what could make somebody a target. This isn't obviously the end all be all list, but that's
the gist of
it, right? So number 2 is be aware of people who try to isolate you or someone you know from outside influences. So this is typical in narcissistic abuse, where the abuser will attempt at any and all costs to isolate the other person from family, friends, from opportunities, things like that. And so that's another thing to look out for, because the abuser does not, and the cult leader as well, does not want the outside people, the influences, to kind of snap them back to reality. So like I've definitely experienced this in my own life, where my ex targeted my family because she didn't want, because she knew that my family saw through her. She knew that my family could see that she was trying to control me.
Well, that's the typical thing with narcissists. It's like the second you can call them out and you sniff right through their bullshit, they need to, the person they're trying to isolate, they need to make sure that you aren't in their head or in their ear, and they need to get rid of you now.
Right.
Typical, yeah.
Yeah. So then the minute the narcissist sees that you see through them, you become a target.
Oh, absolutely.